Good afternoon. Welcome to the Stream Team Show. My name is John Santucci. Call me Tooch. We are going to be recapping Wheel of Time, episode 7. It is Sunday, December 19th, 2021. The gang is all here. Sarah and Aaron. How's everyone doing so far? Sarah, start with you first.
Just trying to survive the next week.
Yes.
And then I'll be in the liminal space between the year and the new year where time doesn't matter, nothing is real, and that will be great.
Yeah. And Aaron, how are you doing? Holidays so far so good?
Yeah. This is the week where it gets kind of crazy with my girl's friend's family. My family's kind of all over the place and split up a little bit, so it's kind of trying to fit time into everybody's schedule while maintaining my work schedule and my girlfriend's work schedule. But just this last week, like Sarah said, final push. I don't have to work as hard as she does, but this final push will be okay after that.
Right on. I am on vacation after this week. I just have to get through this week, then I enjoy like a long vacation, and back to work after the new year. Actually, they pushed my work from home date back. I'm super happy about that.
Oh, really?
Sorry if any of my coworkers are listening. I love y'all, but I love working from home. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about what everyone's watching. Sarah, anything I can recommend to the viewing audience?
Yeah, and this one comes with a big, your mileage may vary, but HBO Max dropped the first 3 episodes of Station 11, an adaptation of the Emily St. John Mandel book from, I want to say somewhere in the early 2010s. I don't remember the exact year, but it's been 7, 8, maybe 9 years. It's been a while. It is a pandemic story. It is about the world before and after a massive pandemic that kills most of the people. But it's not really about that. There's sort of an ensemble, different characters, and it's all kind of edited. It's edited very well, but it's all kind of mixed together. So you're kind of going between 10 days before and 20 days after, and then 20 years later and 20 years before. And so you're kind of seeing these characters at different points along the way and kind of finding out as you go, what happened to them and all that kind of stuff. And it's really, really good. The acting is unbelievable. The cast includes Gael Garcia Bernal, Mackenzie Davis, Himesh Patel, who's a British actor who's very good and kind of just the last few years come into a few things. He was in Tenet last year, 2 years ago. I don't even remember time anymore. But it's a great ensemble. Lori Petty is in it. It was great to see her. And I know it's there are people who just aren't going to want to deal with it. I get it. I totally get it. But those first 3 episodes are really stellar. And if you don't watch it now, maybe put it on your watch list to go to later when you do feel more ready for it, because it is really incredible.
Man, that's great. I looked at it and I'm like, oh, a flu pandemic.
Yeah.
It's in my watch list. I'm like, I would like something to do. This looks kind of cool.
I know. They do kind of the cool thing. They shot it in Chicago during the winter of 2020 when fucking everything was closed and no one was around. So it's very authentic looking. But they do kind of one of my favorite things is what does cities look like when people are no longer there? I love urban exploration of places that have been abandoned and nature's kind of reclaiming them. Mm-hmm. And so they do these cool shots where the L will go by and it'll be current day, 2020 Chicago. And then it'll flip and it'll be all vines and grass and everything's rotting. And then it'll flip back to 2020 of Chicago. So you just get these little glimpses cut into everything of what the city looks like 20 years after this pandemic wipes everybody out, which is cool. I just like that visually. But it's kind of, they don't really focus. The first episode, there's kind of one of the character's sisters is a doctor and she's kind of you have to go now. You have to lock yourself inside. You can't see anybody. There's kind of that moment of oh, it's taking hold. This is, what happens. But what it's really focused on, and by the end of episode 3, which you really start getting into, is that one of the characters who we don't currently know her fate, but she was in Malaysia when the pandemic hit, has made a graphic novel called Station 11. And she only made 2 copies. And we know that one copy went to a little girl who was a child actress who's played as an adult by Mackenzie Davis. And we don't know yet where that second copy is, but we're starting to get hints that somebody in the world does have it and has read it. And so you're starting to see, like 20 years after all this happens, how this graphic novel that only 2 people have read is starting to influence what remains of society.
Wow.
And it's really neat, and it's a little bit strange because there's a character in the graphic novel who's a spaceman, and he's just faceless in a spacesuit. And he sort of shows up in places that you're like, well, obviously he's not like really there because he's not real. But it's like this interesting little thing of like this spaceman. And if you've read the book, the spaceman is narrating the book. He's the voice of the narrator in the book. So I'm interested to see how they incorporate the spaceman in the show, because obviously there's been no voiceover. He's not narrating the show, but he's starting to pop up in the background. And it's kind of interesting of like, oh, okay. And so you're just starting to see like this little thing, this little 2-copy graphic novel that only 2 people have read, and how it's spreading out in what remains of humanity. It's really cool. Interesting. It's very cool. But I get it. If people are like, the timing is terrible. When I saw the first trailer, I was like, this couldn't be worse. Like the timing is just awful.
That's funny.
I'll tell you, I think I was waiting for someone to like recommend it to me. So, I mean, before I started watching it, my wife and I last night were like, what are we going to watch? And I go Station 11, HBO's, they always produce the highest quality.
Yeah. Well, and it's definitely it's very tasteful how they handle the actual like pandemic. Like we don't really, people have died, but we don't really see it. It's all kind of off camera, and it is really crazy because if you think back to March of 2020 and how fast everything flipped. There was like 1 week where everyone's like, well, is this just going to be like the flu? And then it was like, no, this is serious. The world is closed. And so it kind of has that in it where it's like, it just goes like when it happens so fast. But it's also kind of like the first episode before they really even get into it, you just hear people in the background coughing and you're just like, oh God.
Wow.
like you just kind of know because of what we've been through. You don't even need, like, the show is really geared towards, we don't have to explain this. People are going to get it. Like we can just have someone random in the background cough once and everyone will be like, dun, dun,
it really
dun.
hits home. Yeah. I tell you, I just remember one time at the beginning of the pandemic where I've probably been talking so much from doing podcasts and shows, whether it was with the Barroom Network or other, with you guys as well. And I think I was at the grocery store and in line, and my throat was just so sore from talking so much. I was like coughing, and a little boy was like looking at me like his death has entered, who's this guy is going to kill everybody, but it stuck with me forever. But great. So Station 11, that's on HBO, and it's the episodes are dropped all at once or streamed. It's serialized.
No, it's 3 episodes at once over like I think it was Wednesday, Thursday of last week, the first 3 episodes, and then it'll be 1 episode remaining a week.
Is it Sunday nights?
No, it's Wednesdays or Thursdays.
Wednesdays or Thursdays. Okay. Yeah,
I think it's Thursday. I think it's
Sundays are usually reserved for their top shows, and on HBO. Well, as far as me, I'll tell you, I have to confess, I was the one who didn't watch Dexter the first time around. I don't think I had Showtime back then, but started watching season 1 of Dexter. The old, 13 years ago series. Really enjoying it. Love. I'm surprised that my wife and I didn't watch it sooner. But the show I'm watching that's new, current, I really like Yellow Jackets, man. I watch the episode. They drop it every Sunday. I watched the latest episode, but it was episode 6, and so much stuff happened in it that I'm like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to go back and watch episode 5 because I think I missed something. It's like it's kind of a show. It's an intelligent show. You kind of have to look at clues that are dropped, whether very subtly, and I was like, did I miss something? God, I got to go back so that the mystery is revealed and stuff. And I'm like, I'm gonna have to go back. I might have to go back a couple episodes and rewatch because I missed something. Either that or they just haven't revealed it. But it's one you really have to pay attention to, and that is the soccer team lost in the wilderness, sort of the Alive vibe with soccer players alive. I highly recommend it, man. It's great. And Christina Ricci is unrecognizable in it. I was talking on another podcast telling them I was watching Yellow Jackets. Like, oh yeah, that's the one with Christina Ricci. And I was like, is she in that? Like, because I don't even recognize her. I'm like, oh my gosh, she plays Misty. And then, it's got Juliette Lewis and, some other, it's got a great cast.
Melanie Linsky's in it.
Yep.
She's always great.
Excellent. Yes.
I do want to shout out Hawkeye, the penultimate episode 5 was this past week, and Florence Pugh showed up as Yelena Belova. God, right. She's so good. Even if you're not watching Hawkeye, like find that scene where she confronts Kate Bishop.
Great in her apartment. Yeah.
It is
sriracha mac and cheese.
Unbelievably good. Like Florence Pugh is just one of those actors who shows up and makes things instant. Like Hawkeye was already good, but she shows up and makes something instantly better. And she maintains the sort of chaos vibe that she had in the Black Widow movie, where she's kind of like looking for the cool way to die. But she has and this is something that I don't think Natasha really carried, because I think we met Natasha after this point. I think she'd already sort of resolved a lot of her issues by the time we did meet her in the MCU. But Yelena carries so much menace. Like, even when she's smiling and laughing and having a meal, trying to have a meal with you and assuring you that she's not going to kill you, it definitely feels like she's going to kill you.
Shark smile.
So she's just so good. And I'm not I'm a little burnt out on the Marvel stuff, quite frankly. I'm right there with you. I would love it if they would slow the fuck down and not have 6 things a year coming out. But I do think I look forward to anything Florence Pugh shows up in, because I'm like, she just makes this whole thing feel much different.
They're not actual sisters, though, are they? Not Natasha and Yelena? No,
they were like fake spy sisters, but they were like, I think it sort of by the end of the Black Widow movie, it's clear that they're kind of like choosing each other as their family.
Right, exactly. With what was David Harbour? As their surrogate father, right?
And he gets a little shout out in Hawkeye. She has a little moment where she mentions him obliquely. But it was just one of those scenes where I'm like, even when I'm kind of tired of the Marvel stuff, and we can have a whole conversation about is it good or bad for cinema and all that stuff. I think they will occasionally pull out these scenes. Spider-Man No Way Home has one where you're just like, Jesus Christ, they get such good actors, and then they just give them something compelling to do.
That's the new one that just dropped at the theaters, right? No Way Home. Have you seen it yet?
Yeah.
I want to see it. So my friends have been texting me like, it's the best Marvel movie ever.
Well, I don't think it's the best Marvel movie ever, but I do think the last 30 minutes is like the most emotionally resonant thing they've done.
Wow.
I wasn't really like, when I saw the movie, I wasn't super sold on it. I was kind of like, okay, a lot of fan service. And then we hit the last 30 to 40 minutes, that last chunk. And I was like, oh, Jesus, like this is really going for it. And it's doing some things. And Tom Holland, who is a good actor, that I feel like he doesn't really get a lot of stuff that's up to his level. He finally got something to really like sink his teeth into, and he crushed it.
Cool.
Excellent.
So they should throw however much money they need to keep him as Spider-Man for a while.
I don't think isn't it like the ownership isn't with Marvel anymore? Like, I think
it's Sony has it, and this movie is the end of his Sony contract. He still has one Marvel appearance, so Avengers 5 or 6 or whatever.
I thought he had a couple more appearances, but no, that makes sense.
He has one more on the MCU side. So, but if Sony, they're already like, we're planning another trilogy. It's like, you're gonna have to pay Tom Holland so much money. like RDJ money.
Did anyone see the Tom Holland movie where I think it's called Chaos Walking?
I did.
And it's like, I'm Todd Hewitt.
I did not bother.
I liked it.
Heard terrible things.
It was okay. It was all right. It's just so different and so weird.
I did sit through Cherry, which was, he made a movie with the Russo brothers.
I started watching. I couldn't get through it.
It wasn't very good.
Yeah.
Again, I think he's a really good actor, and he's just been cast to play Fred Astaire in a biopic, which I'm like, great. That's great casting. Of course he should play Fred Astaire because he's a great dancer.
Excellent. That's going to be
cool. Yeah, the last Spider-Man No Way Home, I was kind of like, and then I got to the end, and I was like, okay, that worked really, really
very good,
well.
Very cool.
Excellent. So, Aaron, what are you watching right now?
I am rewatching The Witcher season 1. I think I mentioned last week when a new season comes out on whatever streaming service it may be. Like I said, last show we had watched season 3 of Lost in Space came out, so we watched seasons 1 and 2, and then went to 3. So we're rewatching season 1 of The Witcher, and then we'll get into season 2. You guys are dedicated. Well, it's such. We've talked about. I have a short memory. I don't remember things very well, so it's easier for me to just get back into it and enjoy it through. And a lot of times I enjoy it more the second time through, and I am. And it's funny because I can't remember episode 6. If you guys, I remember episode 6, the episode with the Law of Surprise was the first time where I was like, "What the fuck?" Because they do not make it clear until that point that they're on different timelines.
Yeah,
that Geralt's timeline is happening in the past, and then the little girl's timeline is happening now. They do not make that clear.
Yeah,
and like
I didn't get that until the recap.
Yeah,
with is his name?
Even
Dooney?
The first time you didn't get it.
Dooney, yeah, the first time. Is that his name?
Yeah,
Dooney?
the little hedgehog guy.
The hedgehog face guys. Okay,
but. Well, yeah, because like the queen dies real early in The Witcher, and then like episode 6 or 7, she's in it. That's a Law of Surprise. That was when I was like, wait, she died, and I think it's the episode 1 or the next episode or 2 following is when they're like, oh, by the way, everything happened with Geralt that we've showed. It was in the past, leading up to the timeline thing that's going on with the little girl.
And it was the baby that he was claiming, Ciri.
The Law of Surprise. Yeah. Yep, correct. Yep, absolutely.
Okay. And she's also looking for him.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep, that is correct.
She's run away or exiled, or
I have to say the big improvement for season 2 is that it's just a linear timeline. None of that crap is happening.
Good.
It's just
good,
straightforward.
Good. And like I said, it was. I forgot about it completely, but the first watch through, I was like, "What is happening?"
There are so many ways they could have visually cued that. But for some reason, like nobody ages, and I get that like Yennefer and Geralt are like magic people who maybe don't age, but there were human characters that even if you suggested they had a longer lifespan than average, you could still show them. Like the scene where the queen dies, she could have, and that's an actress named Jodie May. She's fantastic, but she could have had like gray hair and like lines on her face. And then that you cut back. Then when you go to the party scene in season 6 where she's young, you would know immediately that's 2 different times.
You wonder if
they don't do anything.
You wonder if they didn't want to. And like really give you that what the fuck moment, like
I think
on that
that they were trying to be a little cute with it, like because I started to suspect. I think it was episode 2 or 3 where I was like, "Wait a minute, is the timeline off? Like, what's happening?" And then it was maybe episodes 3 and 4 that I was like, "What's happening with this?" And then it was finally like slowly sinking in. I'm like, "Oh, this is different timelines. Everybody's in a different spot." I think they were trying to kind of be a little tricksy of like, "Ooh, what's happening? When are we? You don't know." And it's like there is such a thing as being too cute for your own good,
right?
And now that they've kind of synced everything together, they're just like season 2 straightforward. And I'm
good. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, we're just a couple episodes out, but we'll be getting into it here pretty quick. Other than the Witcher,
so before for Witcher, just like briefly catch us up. You know, like what happened, where we were when we left off season 1. There was a big battle at Sodden Hill, right? And Yennefer used fire magic to, which was forbidden or something, I think. And she then she disappears, right? From
Yennefer is missing.
Missing, right? Okay. And Geralt is with Ciri, right? He finds Ciri, and they're looking for Yennefer currently. Is that correct?
Kinda. He actually thinks that she's dead. She is missing. He thinks that she is dead. And so he is packing Ciri off to Kaer Morhen, which is like the fortress of the Witchers.
Okay.
So he's going to go train Ciri, like how to survive.
Right. And is she training as a Witcher? Or...
Well, not yet. Like I don't know if
you can't become a Witcher.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you've read the books or played the video games, but that's not quite true.
Well,
but at this point, his thing is, I have to protect this kid, so I'm going to teach her self-defense, essentially. He's not trying to make her a witch or anything. He's just like, she'll be safe here, and I can teach her how to defend herself, because as far as he knows, he thinks Yennefer is dead.
Excellent. All right. So we got caught up there on Witcher. I'm looking forward to it. I was gonna check it out like
I think
ASAP.
I think it's about 5 or so minutes into the first episode that Girl drops his first fuck.
All right. Very
Right.
good.
And I should tell the viewing audience that there's a 6-minute season 1 recap that's done kind of humorously with a narrator that kind of jokingly runs you through all the characters and cracks some jokes at the character's expense. So if you haven't seen it, it's pretty good catch up. It's only 6 minutes long, and if it's in the extras at the bottom of the episode list in Netflix. All right, so episode 7, Wheel of Time. Let's just get into it.
We must.
I enjoyed the episode. I think I want to talk about a couple scenes. We get to see inside the ways.
I don't care about that at all.
Right. That was kind of like we left you hanging. Matt didn't come with, so Matt didn't travel to the eye of the world. And then they show the history of a woman spear fighting a bunch of knights, pregnant.
That was cool. That was very cool. That was an extremely well done action scene.
Very, very excellent scene. And at the end of the scene, one of the knights who finds the woman and she's about to give birth, and she just like ripped up a bunch of dudes. That woman is Aiel. They're a fighter. The women are fighters in that race. They live in the wastelands. And the knight takes off his mask, and it's Rand's dad.
Which you find out later in the episode, but yeah.
Right. I wanted to ask Sarah and Aaron, do you wish they had done this scene earlier in the episodes, or was this appropriate?
I literally wish this whole thing was about shit that happened in the past. Like every time they flash back to something in the past, it's 10 times more interesting than whatever's happening in the future. So I was watching that scene. I was watching that scene and I'm like, oh, could we just be watching a whole show about this lady? Like what's her deal? What's going on here? Let's just watch a show about this instead.
Right. And
yeah.
Did you make the connection?
I figured she was one of their kids. I'm like, she's going to be one of the kids. And I kind of figured it was Rand because, my theory,
right.
Rand
that was
the pouty
his
baby
dad was there, Mike Bruce Bolton.
One. Right.
But again, you didn't know that till
later.
The end.
You don't know till later in the episode. But I did figure from the opening scene, I was like, okay, she's one of the kids' mom. It's probably Rand.
She's got red hair.
One. Yeah. And I was just like, it's just...
So Loyal the ogre had told Rand, he's like, I haven't, it's not often you see an Aiel so far outside of the waist. Mm-hmm. He's like, I'm not an Aiel. He's like, but they have the distinctive red hair like Aaron. So, Aaron, you're not an Aiel, are you? Or...
I'm not. No.
Okay. All right.
No.
But there was a scene kind of tongue in cheek, and I wondered if the show writers had been watching Sarah comment on Wheel of Time, because they were like, they both pout and they both brood, or they're both tall and they both pout.
No, I mean, first of all these episodes were written and shot way before we started doing this. But I think we're just aware of the again, like it's the reason I could watch the first episode of the show and knowing nothing about it, be like, that's the chosen one, is because this is how these stories have gone for literal thousands of years. So I think it's a very, very worn trope that the pouty broody baby will be the chosen one. So they're kind of pointing out like, yeah, they're all pouty broody babies.
Are they all pouty though? I mean, they are.
I think Rand is literally just like a pouty, like nothing. Like his entire personality is like,
I wouldn't say Egwene is.
No, Egwene's not terribly pouty, but of the boys, like all the boys are just
all pouty. The boys are pouty bitches.
But then there's the sad face guy who's like sad. Like every time his sad fucking face comes on screen, I'm just like, ugh, this guy.
The big man.
Yeah, just sad.
The wolf eyes, yellow eye guy. There was a scene with between Rand and Egwene where the actors, they got their little tears popping out.
I mean, again, they're not bowling me over, but I'm willing to chalk it up to, I just don't find their characters terribly compelling. I don't find their whole, like, obviously nothing's going to happen with their relationship. They're not going to get together because he's the chosen one. So that's not going to happen. He has to go off and do his chosen one thing.
Yep. And she has to go off and do her thing, go to the White Tower and train according to the dialogue.
This is kind of the problem with these stories. And I know this book series is huge and there's fans all over the world and blah, blah, blah. But like, these stories are so well worn. Like they're just so overdone. And I think I even commented in an earlier episode, like if this was written now, the chosen one would definitely be the girl.
Yeah.
Just because, and it's not anything of political correctness or whatever. It's because it's fucking boring to tell the same story, and people are finally like,
different.
We've done 4,000 years of pouty boys being the chosen one. Now we're going to do girls. Like we're just going to do something different.
And that is what happens in the books. It's Rand.
Which he says in this episode. It's not a spoiler. He fully says it's me.
He fully says it. It's me because he and the reason he does is because he goes to the tavern with a character, Min. I should have brought up her picture, but she's the one that Moraine talks to in the bar. She brings them to the bar for a reason, so that the woman behind the bar can read people's auras, and it gives her a glimpse of the future, which is what was in the books. The character's name is Min, M-I-N, and he goes in there and by himself at night. They have kind of a little clever dialogue and drink some liquor, but he is revealed that he was the baby that was born on the slopes of Dragon Mount, which was what the prophecy says. That's why he goes to Moraine's room and says, "It's me," because he went to the seer, the fortune teller, and it was revealed to him. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about how that scene was done. I thought it was pretty well done. Not after the bar. I'm talking about the closed doors of the palace in Faldara, of how there's a knocking on the door, and you think it's they open up. There's knocking on doors in 2 or 3 different places. Yeah. I thought that was pretty well done, because they're happening at different times. Rand has obviously gone to Moraine's quarters and told her, and they bolted in the middle of the night because they've obviously walked a long way to get to that, place where they have to cross through all the gnarled plants and stuff. And then the other ones, of course, is Nynaeve and Lan,
which is so unearned. And I know it's a whole thing. I know it's a whole thing in the books, but I feel like that's what they're relying on. I feel like they're relying on, well, the book readers are going to get that these two are supposed to be together, because they've literally had one conversation when they were on the road and everyone's camping in the woods. That's like the one and only time that they've talked. And ever since they've been in love. And it's like, what?
I totally agree. But don't you wish they had shown some of them sharing some moments?
Yes. Yeah, it needed a hell of a lot. And that's kind of my whole thing is this season is 8 episodes. It could be at least 10. Like we just need more time. We need more time with these characters. And honestly, this was the problem with the finale of Game of Thrones, was they rushed it. It's like, sometimes you have to take the time to properly set things up to earn the payoff. So Lan and Ninian or whatever have this huge love scene, and the actors just don't have compelling chemistry. Again, Daniel Henney and Rosamund Pike have way better chemistry.
Smoking.
But so it doesn't work on the level of like their chemistry is selling it. But
I don't think
it just kind of comes out of nowhere.
Moraine swings that way.
I just
think that's obvious at this point.
Right.
But
at this point, I think that's pretty clear. But I'm just saying, like, as actors, Daniel Henney and Rosamund Pike have more chemistry.
Absolutely.
So every interaction they have has a little extra flair to it. Yeah. Whereas the woman who plays Ninian, not that she's a bad actress, she's not. It's just that she doesn't have great chemistry. And honestly, this is a problem that it's a real problem in most modern entertainment, because everything has become so sexless and puritanical. They're no longer, and I don't like, this is true very rarely anymore. It used to be really common. If you were casting a romantic couple, you would do a chemistry read between a lot of different people and find the best chemistry. They don't even bother with that anymore, because they know they're not going to show any of this shit on screen. And they'll just tell us these two are in love now. We'll be like, okay. Because we've just for some reason accepted that our entertainment is going to be this fucking bland, and this bland fucking, and it's just like these characters. I mean, if those actors had great chemistry, where every time they connected eyes, you felt like, okay, there's a spark, okay, there's something here. If you felt that every time, you wouldn't maybe notice that they weren't interacting that much. But they don't have that, so you're acutely aware that like we have skipped some steps. Like you have not earned.
It was highly sanitized.
Yeah, well, it's just, it's a
this.
problem with all entertainment. It's not just the show.
Let me ask you this. If, Rand and Egwene obviously slept together that night, right?
Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying like I do think I know there are people who are like we don't need sex scenes, they don't add anything, and I'm like, oh wow, you're super telling on yourself and your life in a
And
big
that's my
way that I
question.
don't think you're aware of.
Wouldn't you have liked to see like a little
No,
steamy sex scene?
but I'm not even saying that you need the sex scene. I'm not
Mhm.
even saying you need an explicit sex scene.
But how would it
I'm just
change the
saying
show?
like it has become what I'm saying is it has become so bland that even when you have characters who are supposed to be in love, the actors do not have the chemistry to sell those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And like you think of like some of the great rom-coms of the past, like they don't necessarily have big sex scenes. Like While You Were Sleeping, one of the great rom-coms of all time, and it's Christmas season, so you should watch it. It's on Netflix.
Yep.
There's no sex scene in that, but Bill Pullman and Sandra Bullock have amazing chemistry. So you totally believe that they are attracted against their will, almost, that they are falling in love, that this is all happening. Like you totally believe it. You buy the emotions because you can feel the spark between the characters. And you don't even have that. So it's not even like, oh, we don't have, and I would even say like a good kissing scene can make up for not having an explicit sex scene. But there's not even good kissing. Like when Lan and Ninian kiss, it's just
Did they kiss?
Yeah, they kiss, but it's nothing because they have no chemistry.
Right. Okay. It was so forgettable. I forgot.
Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of a problem.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk. What if they had like a sex scene, however tastefully done? Maybe there was some. It was a little bit more, more Game of Thronesy. Would it have changed the show for the better or for the worse?
I don't think it changes anything because you still have the fundamental problem that they did not earn that payoff.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no buildup and they don't earn the payoff. They just say these two are, it's basically just mashing action figures together where they're just like, these two are in love now. And it's like, are they? Do they even know each other's names? Like, I'm not sure. They barely talk.
I don't think, like I said, this is a fundamental problem with the show is that we haven't been properly introduced to all the characters. We've had some backstory of, some of the characters. We got a little glimpse into Lan's past where he was a prince.
Yeah, and that whole thing of like, oh, they overran our kingdom. And it's like, oh, could we watch a whole show about that?
Yeah, or how about like a nice flashback like we got with the lady spear fighting in the beginning of Lan as a little boy. Yeah. And his palace being overrun and the guy who he had dinner with and brought Nynaeve to dinner with, ushering, saving him out, in an escape. That would have done something. It's just we're not getting these little snippets of the past to make the characters
lots of
someone more that you care about. Yeah. A lot of mistakes. I mean, and again, I'm just like, it's getting great reviews or whatever, wherever it's going. And it's all people who read the books. They're just like, this is great because I love the books.
I
normal
like
people are probably like, I don't know if I'm going to keep watching it. Right?
I don't want to deprive people who are enjoying this of the thing that they are enjoying. Sure. But just being outside the fan bubble, no one's fucking talking about it all the time.
That's my point.
No one's talking about it. If you go outside the fan bubble, there's nothing.
Right.
So.
Right. And Aaron, what'd you think of the episode, like briefly overall? Good, bad? It was one of the, this isn't saying a whole lot, is that it probably was one of the better episodes. But that doesn't say.
No, it doesn't. For me, it just feels like it's spinning its tires. You can see a lot of motion and a lot of something, but nothing's happening. It's not going anywhere for me. And I'm the easiest dude to please. I like awful movies. I've got, I don't know if it's a joke, but like Velocipaster, I've seen a bunch and enjoy the hell out of it. I am so easy to entertain, and it's not entertaining. It's just, when it comes right down to it, it's not. It's missing something it's missing anything at this point too that draws you in, that makes you care.
Yeah,
I don't even know the kids' names. I know Egwene, and I know one of them's name is Matt, and that's all I know.
And Matt is the actor of the kids who's done the best job. He's not even on the show.
And I didn't even know which one it was. I just remember us joking about one of their names is Matt. I
can't remember. I can't remember in the books if he doesn't go along with them. I seem to think he went along with them. They didn't leave him out. You know, in I know the series.
Something
is
has
one step
clearly
closer.
happened.
Yeah.
Something has clearly happened.
One step closer to ushering Barney out the door.
Maybe that's how they introduced the guy that plays in season 2, Matt, and it's a totally different guy that you have no idea.
It will be a totally different guy. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Maybe that's
and the guy who plays Matt, he's so distinctive too. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be hard to. It's just there's so many mistakes that the show has made because I think it could have been a lot better. I mean, if they had given us something to latch onto these characters, that's the past stories, you know, and they just haven't. They could have told
how
it
hard it
better.
is.
Yeah,
it's proof of how hard it is to make good TV, but also to adapt. Like people tend to think the bigger a book is or a book series, the easier it must be to adapt because you get all of this stuff built in. It's like, no, it's harder. It'd be so much easier to adapt a 10-page short story than a 10-book series.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, because you can kind of feel them struggling with. But I also have to say, like, and I know again, like, there's a lot of people who love the books. Great. I am legitimately happy for you. I'm sure there's books I read that people like, that's a bad book. I just don't think this is a very interesting story.
So let's
just like on its basic level, I'm like, oh God, I don't care about chosen one narratives. This world isn't particularly, nothing about it is, and that's kind of like, again, when the first trailer dropped, the wheelies got really mad at me because I was making jokes about dragons. But like, honest to God, the monsters, that's a big hook for people.
Yeah.
And there's just not enough of that stuff.
There was one inside the waves.
There was one.
Yeah, and then they blasted it away.
And then, the black wind came and, put a bunch of voices in their head.
I think black wind and like fog and shit doesn't count. And I know there's a whole movie called The Mist, but I don't care. I'm talking about like people got hooked on Game of Thrones. People get hooked on Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings because there are cool creatures.
Yep.
Because it's like, oh, what's this with the owls? That's neat. Oh, look at this! Like, there's all these
the
weird
mandrake
magical
roots
things.
or the house elves.
Yeah, all the weird little magical things that happen. And this is a world that, to me, it's a magical world that feels really unmagic. Like it just.
Good point.
And so this brings me to probably an important question. I don't know whether it's the most important question about the show. Is that I think you have to kind of like set aside the books and judge the show all by itself.
Yeah, you should be doing that anyway.
Yeah,
right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I mean,
again, because the only two people that haven't had anything to do with the books on the podcast have
never. You have always liked it more than us. Like I feel like the book readers are cutting the show a huge amount.
Oh, absolutely, because they have the background, they have the story and everything. It's a shame because, like you said, adapting a 15-book series. For TV, they didn't make the right choices. Let's just say that.
Well, yeah, and I do feel kind of bad because I think it was Rebecca said that they'd asked for 10 episodes and we're told no, you only get 8. It's like, and that was problem one.
That was problem one.
Problem one, right there.
Major problem.
And that's not anything that the writers or the showrunner or anybody could do anything about. That was Amazon as a network saying this is what you get.
Right.
So that's like an executive level mistake.
Yep.
And I wonder if that's kind of I was gonna say Netflix. Like, never mind. I was thinking of something entirely different because I've read a couple of different Jupiter's Legacy. Also, they wanted more money, they wanted more stuff, and Netflix kept telling them no, and ended up
Wachowski sisters. I mean,
ended up killing the show. Was budget. He kept going to fight for more, and they wouldn't give him more. So that's what
that's Jupiter's Legacy was the Frank Miller thing on Netflix. Jupiter's Ascending was the Wachowski sisters.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the superhero one. Yeah, the superhero.
Everything is called Jupiter.
Yeah,
that was great, man.
Yeah, and everybody loved it, and the fans loved it. It just sounds like there was so much bickering backstage with like the guys who made the show with Netflix wanted more money. He wanted more time, and they wouldn't give it to him. So
and that's what I meant last week when I said there's not as much money out there as people think. And it's starting to hit where like these massive budgets, like Apple and Amazon have a lot they can throw at, but at a certain point you do start looking at it like, is $100 million for this thing really worth it? Are we really going to get anything back for it? And I think that the test for Wheel of Time, obviously season 2 is already in production. So season 2 is going to happen for sure. But the real test for Wheel of Time for Amazon, the show can be a loss leader if it pushes something else. But if they don't get big Amazon Prime subscribers, if they don't sell Wheel of
Yeah.
Time books through their Amazon.com, like if that stuff's not happening, this is going to get cut. Like we just saw it with Netflix and Cowboy Bebop. If the viewers aren't there, they're not patient. Nothing's going to have time to grow.
Yeah.
So if you don't get it right out of the gate, it's over.
So let me ask you this question then, which follows logically from your point you just made, which is an excellent point. Season 2 might be the last chance the show gets.
Yeah.
Right? If it's not, I mean, I keep going back to the Stark children, how they were kind of like clunky actors and, you know, but they had spunk still, you know, they were spirited, you know, they got better at acting.
They weren't the best actors to start with,
Right.
especially the younger ones, because they were legitimately just kids.
They were just kids.
But they weren't so bad that they were distracting. You know what I mean? Like they
Which
weren't.
is kind of what you got here.
Yeah, I can just feel myself tuning out whenever it's the kids interacting with each other. I'm just like,
I know. I for whatever, whether it's just luck or for whatever reason, whether it's budget, the actors that they chose for Game of Thrones just turned out to be better actors. I don't know whether these kids.
I suspect because they did shoot a Game of Thrones. HBO used to have this amazing process. They don't do it anymore because the people that are in charge now aren't interested in spending the kind of money that HBO used to just throw tens of millions of dollars into development and they wouldn't even go forward with the show. But
they still do with the
that's the last one.
They spent
like $30 million on a Game of Thrones pilot that they're never going to air, and it's not going to go to show. But that's going to be the last one.
Yeah,
that's the last. But what they did with the original Game of Thrones pilot was they cast it, they shot it. It's famously terrible. I've actually seen it. It's not that bad.
I didn't even know it existed until you guys mentioned it last week.
It's just for like how much they spent. It's not great. And then they recast several roles, most notably Daenerys Targaryen was recast. It was originally
who was the original?
I think Tamsin Merchant was the original.
Okay, I don't know
an English actress, and she has kind of said she's glad it wasn't her because she wasn't comfortable with the nudity in the pilot.
Neither was Emilia Clarke.
Well, neither was Emilia Clarke, but she just like gutted it out. But I think what Tamsin Merchant was saying is she wouldn't have been able to gut it out. And they redid the whole pilot and they rewrote it like from top to bottom. They rewrote it, they recast it, they reshot it. And I think when they were casting the Stark kids, especially the older ones, I don't think they were casting for the first season. I think they were casting for later seasons. I think they were casting for, we don't need you to be the best bastard child now. What we need you to be is the best reluctant leader 4 years from now. Because that's where Kit Harington really hit his stride. When everyone starts pushing responsibility onto Jon Snow and he's like, fuck it, I don't want to do this. That's when he really started to hit his stride. And you see the same thing with Richard Madden, who played Robb Stark.
Right.
He's not so great in the first season as the heir, as the son. But when he becomes the king in the north and he's making all these mistakes and he's basically Prince Charming fucking up, that's when he hits his stride.
Yeah.
And so I kind of think they were casting for, I think they knew like this is where this character's going because the books were, I mean, those stories, the books were out. They knew like Robb Stark's going to die, like Jon Snow's going to become a general or whatever at the Night Watch. Like they kind of knew where they were headed. They cast ahead. And so early on, when they're kind of playing like the basic version of their characters, they're not super interesting because that's not actually what they were hired to do.
Understood.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like with these kids, I really just genuinely feel like they went for like the most attractive kids that they could find.
That's exactly, you're like reading from my notes or something here because they may be like pretty looking, you know, and we have we have a bunch of mixed race actors, which is cool and fine and stuff, but you still need actors that can act, you know, and they're just, to me, they're very wooden. Yeah. You know, they're great to look at. They're very beautiful.
And they don't have a lot to do. Like the writing's not super amazing. Their characters aren't super interesting, but it's just, they, again, like I've said this before, but they can't elevate it. They're not skilled enough to pull that material up the way the older actors can just like take a little bit and make a meal out of it.
So let's talk about one of the new characters that we meet. You know, I'm talking about the fortune teller. She is an older actress. You know, she doesn't look young.
Well, she looks about like maybe Rosamund Pike's age. I mean, I wouldn't say she's old, but she's like in her 30s, maybe 40s.
Right. So they was she able to pull off? I don't even know who the actress is. I should have. Usually, I plop her up there on screen. I just totally forgot.
She was fine. I think she was fine. I mean, she's on screen for what, 4 minutes, maybe tops. Yeah. Like it's not like she was doing a whole lot.
No, but later on, she becomes, you know, one of the important characters.
Alexander is her name.
Is that her name? Okay,
yep.
Kay Alexander.
Oh, is she gonna come back in future?
I don't know. In the book, she was a very important character. You know, because of her ability to sort of glimpse possible futures. You know, and I didn't picture her as being older, but perhaps
you keep saying she's old. Like she's not old.
Well, I don't know how old she is.
35-year-old actress.
Like, no, but older than the kids.
Yeah, older than. Okay. I mean, again, she looks like she's about Rosamund Pike's age.
Right, she might be like 10 or so years older than the kids. You know, the actress. I'm just guessing. I don't know, but
I'm looking at.
She appears older and she acts. Maybe she's just a better actress than the kids.
Yes, you know, she's definitely a better actor than the kids.
Yeah, and then you know we had the Gleeman was chewing up the scenery when he was on. Then you had the Steppen, the warder whose eyes had died, passed away, and then he took his own life. He was chewing up scenery too. Like you said, the older actors really can elevate a bland script.
Longer,
been around longer. Yep. Yeah, I'm wondering that's the biggest thing that worries me is
36.
whether or not she's 36. Okay, so the kids.
She's younger than me. Stop calling her old.
No, I wasn't calling her old. I'm saying she's older than the kids. I didn't mean to say she's. Because I'm 53, so I mean,
do not look older than 36. So you really don't. I thought you were closer to my age. Which I mean, I'm only 33, but I definitely thought you were closer to my age, huh?
I could be both. I could be your age of your parents, both of you. So, but yeah, the kids. My worry is, and I don't think they're gonna get to the point where I just don't think they're that good.
Maybe not on this show, but like maybe over time with other opportunities, because people like to. I mean, and there is. I do truly believe there is such a thing as talent. There are people who are born with aptitudes and abilities that are unique to them. But acting isn't as special as people think. Like it is a muscle. It's a craft. It's not unlike carpentry. Yep. You can learn how to do it. And if you put in enough time and effort, you will just by virtue of Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours, you will get better at it just by building up the muscle.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, like those kids, they could definitely be better. Like 5 years from now, they could be much better actors just because they've worked more.
Let me contrast the kids with Haley Steinfeld. Is that her name? Haley Steinfeld?
Haley Steinfeld,
she has been doing it for quite a while. She's
been doing it for a while. I mean, True Grit was not even her first thing, and she was like 10 in that movie.
Yeah.
But she also is, again, like I do think there's a point where it's like, okay, you can learn to do something. You can learn an acting technique and you can practice it and work hard and be in productions and just put in your 10,000 hours and you will get better.
Yeah.
You can be born with something that's going to make you automatically a little bit better at it. Sure, and Haley Steinfeld kind of has that extra something.
I mean, I've been watching Hawkeye and my wife and I are just amazed at like her facial expressions, her timing,
if you really
her eyes.
If you really want to trip on Haley Steinfeld, Apple TV Plus is airing the final season of Dickinson, where she plays the poet Emily Dickinson. And it's ahistorical, like it's not trying to be perfect. It's like The Great. It's not trying to be perfectly historical everything. There's a lot of anachronisms. Like John Mulaney plays Thoreau, and he's just like an asshole who lives in the woods. But she's amazing, and it's a completely different tone and degree of performance, style of performance. So you watch her in Hawkeye, and then flip over and watch an episode of Dickinson, and it's like that's the same person.
Yeah, she's amazing. I sometimes think like, what if she was in Wheel of Time? It'd be a kick-ass show.
I mean, she would have that thing of like she could probably make some of that.
She was like a Gwen or something, you know.
She could make it work a little bit better.
Yeah, and elevate the people around her probably too. But yeah, I'm enjoying Hawkeye. I know Aaron hasn't seen it. It's a great show, man. I really love I love watching her act, and the character's fantastic too. They gave her a great character, great dialogue.
But that's also the thing is like it's also she's a really good actress, and she does have like some inherent talent that sort of makes her very fun to watch. Hawkeye, like, it's very well written, and Kate Bishop is a very tangible character. She has a lot to work with. And again, like the kids on Wheel of Time, they're a little bit stranded. Like there's not a ton there for them to be. And what they are getting is just so cliche.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think the actors read the books? I doubt it.
I don't know.
Would it have helped? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy.
I know actors who swear by it, and I know actors who don't want to read anything but the script. They just want to play what's on the page. So, and I don't think there's a right answer. I just think it's different styles of approaching the work.
Right. All right. We're coming up on an hour. I want to ask you guys any last comment. I know we're getting to the finale of this show, and I don't know whether it's. I kind of wish that they had asked for, hey, could this episode be an hour and a half, 2 hours? And then they would have gotten closer to 10 episodes that you and we all feel would have been better for the show. It's a shame. It's a shame that Amazon cut it at 8 episodes. And like you said, Sarah, it was a great point that eventually the dollars and numbers are a decision. It's not a decision of the show creators. It's not a decision of the actors. It's not a decision of the writers. It's a decision of someone up above who is just looking at numbers. Is this going to be profitable? And it would be interesting if we took a look at book sales and Amazon, just seeing where Robert Jordan's books are, because that might be a good indicator of whether or not season 2 is going to be the last season of Wheel of Time. But me as a book reader and knowing the full story, I would love to see it end, because it does have a great ending.
Yeah, it's selling well. The first book is the 5th highest selling fiction book on Amazon as of 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Great.
So I mean, that
they're
helps.
Getting something out of it.
That helps, because it can be a loss leader if Amazon is getting value somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's when they don't get value anywhere else that it just becomes a cash drain, and that's when it gets canceled.
Right. And like you said, outside of the fan bubble, we might be seeing the cash drain. Because like I said, like you two haven't read the books, and I have, and I'm enjoying the show a lot more because I know the full story and I know the backgrounds of the characters, and that's what hurts the most, is that you're not getting to see the background of these characters, because if they had spent a little time, like you said, how about an episode about when that lady was fighting more on the slopes.
Well, I kind of joke about I kind of joke about like I would like to just watch a show about that, but I really believe like 10 episodes probably would have done the trick. Just give us one more episode at the beginning, establishing the kids, setting up their relationships to one another, to their families, to their town, set up that whole little world, and then one more episode on the road, which would give you time for like Lan and Ninian to kind of connect a little bit more, have more than one conversation. And just give a little bit more time for these characters to just relate to one another on like a normal level before everything goes crazy. I think 10 episodes probably would have just rounded it out pretty. Just even those 2 small things would have made such a huge difference.
And then they could have done 8 episodes after that, right? 8 episodes a season.
Yeah, like next season could have been 8 episodes. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, like you said, you got to set the hook. And they didn't set the hook for the fish.
Because it does kind of seem like everyone's having more adventures in the past that are like more interesting than this current adventure.
Yeah.
Where I just don't care. It's also because like I know these types.
What the hell was Rand's father doing there on?
Yeah, like what was that about? I mean,
he just shows up, pulls off the mask. It's like. But
it also just kind of like, again, like the idea of like these stories are just so well trod. Is like I know how this is gonna end.
Yep, they could have. Actually, you don't, because it does have a twist. But I mean,
I bet I can guess the twist.
He's 100% right now with the way she thought.
There's no way you can guess. There's no way you can guess. I don't think we'll get to it.
I don't think again, like even if this was a wild runaway smash success, they would not get 15 seasons.
No.
So
Or I don't think they'll get 10 or 5.
like Witcher is a wild runaway smash success, and there's like 10 or more books in the Witcher series. They're not going to get 10 seasons. They'll be lucky to get 5 or 6. I mean, The Crown is one of Netflix's biggest series ever, and they're ending at season 6.
Yeah.
So
Game of Thrones, season 6.
8.
Was it season 8?
Mm-hmm.
They went to 8 seasons?
Mm-hmm. And that's another one where honestly they should have gone to 10. They should have done 100 episodes. It should have been 10 seasons of 10 episodes, and that would have been the time to build everything.
It was
up.
only 6 seasons.
No, it was 8, but it was the last 2 seasons were short. Season 7 was like 5 or 6 episodes, and season 8 was like 8. Like they were short seasons.
Damn, I didn't realize. I always thought it was 6. I'm like, yeah, but and you know, while you were talking about Game of Thrones and at the point when George Martin was approached by HBO, whoever, hey, we want to adapt your novels. He hadn't even gotten to book 5.
Well, and he even said fairly recently in an interview that he truly didn't think they were going to outpace him.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit naive. Like, I honestly think that's naive.
Very naive.
And George R.R. Martin has worked in entertainment. He'd written scripts. He had some idea of how the sausage was made. Yep. So I feel like at the point that he's like, I know how long it takes me to write. I'm only on book 4 or whatever. I know I have like an 8-book plan or whatnot. And then being like, and I know how TV shows get made. They're going to outpace me. But he said he genuinely didn't think I think what he thought was that they would catch up and stop and wait for him, which again, naive. Yep. Because the show was such a big hit. They're not going to stop. What are you talking about? Nope. Like, that's insane.
Yeah. The train's rolling.
And you know, I've said this all along. I don't think he had the ending to the books because I've read interviews with him where he said he likes the story to take him along for the ride as much as he takes the story along for. I like to let it go where it goes.
Since the finale, and it was so unpopular, which I do think again a little bit unfair because
the
overall big decisions I don't have a problem with. It's just how they got there. He's kind of walked it back because I do remember when they were going into the final season, they were kind of making a big deal out of, no, he told us the ending. They were like,
no, I know, but I don't think it was the ending that I just think he made up an ending.
I think if he finishes the books, which I don't think he will, but if he does, I think he will have a different one. Because now he knows this is wildly unpopular.
Yep.
And people will stop reading my books if they feel that I'm committing to this. But I do think genuinely because they even told the story. They met him in New Mexico. He told them the whole thing, how it was going to end. I know. And they were like, okay, that's what we're going to do. I think that was his planned ending because you can see the setups like in the early part of the story. The whole thing is taking this kind of chosen one story, just like Wheel of Time, just like Lord of the Rings, all the fantasy stuff.
Right. And we got multiple chosen ones, right?
Just turning it over and just saying like, we're going to break every trope. The handsome prince that you think is here to save the day is going to get his head cut off. The noble warrior that you think is here is going to get his head cut off. Like the pouty, broody son that you think is the chosen one because he's the pouty, broody baby, he's going to do nothing cool.
Yeah.
Like being the chosen one is going to be the dumbest shit you've ever seen in your life. Like all those things.
The rags to riches girl story is going to turn out to be, a nightmare.
You can see the setups coming of like how it all turns. So I do kind of feel like, no, that's probably what he truly intended all along, because that's in keeping with the early setups and the early idea of, I'm going to take all these well-worn tropes and I'm going to break them one by one. How can I subvert every fantasy genre trope? But at a certain point, people have invested so much time into watching, reading, theorizing, etc.
Yeah. That's true. It's possible.
You have to, at a certain point, you have to pay it off in a way that makes them feel like that was all worth it. If you don't, they get angry, which is what he's now seen happen. So if he finishes the books, I do think he'll deliver a different ending just because now he knows, no, I'm going to have to pay some of that shit off. Like Jon Snow is going to have to do something cool. Like it's going to have to be a different thing. But the show walked into some stuff because book readers have told me in the books, like the Night King isn't that big of a deal. The walkers or whatever, like they're not, the ice zombies aren't like that.
They were overrated.
Like I think Benioff and Weiss kind of got a little hooked on the creatures and the mystery and all that stuff, and they kind of overplayed their hand. But again, That was a huge reason the
There
show
you go.
was a hit right out of the
Yeah.
gate, was because they set up there's this big mystery.
The
What's
Night
the
King
symbol? What are
riding
these
one of her
monsters?
dragons, a zombie dragon just burning down the wall.
Well,
That was
that's
just one of the
fucking
great
season 8
scenes.
shit. That's late,
Yeah.
like early season 1 pilot episode. What are these monsters? Why is he scared? What is the symbol? What's happening?
Mhm.
People got hooked on that.
Yeah,
So
the
you
mystery
can't
of that,
say
yeah.
like they overplayed their hand with the magic and the zombies and all that stuff. It's like, but if they didn't, the show might not have ever been as big as it was.
Yeah, probably not.
So it's just kind of like, which is why I think, oh, guys, just do the ending you did, but just take a little more time to get there. Set that stuff up.
Right.
Anyway.
All right. Before we wrap this up, Wheel Time. We know we're getting one more season. I'm not hopeful that there'll be more after 2, just because I don't think the actors that play like Sarah says all the time, we just don't care about them. You know, they haven't been developed. They haven't been given good lines. They haven't been given a good backstory. They haven't been given enough of a backstory. They haven't been given enough scenes of chemistry with anyone or anyone else. And that's a real problem. Again, it's only a show that fans of the book are probably going to enjoy. And that's a problem for a company like Amazon that is concerned with numbers, like Sarah says. And that's going to wrap it up. Any final thoughts, Aaron? What's going to happen in the season finale? No idea.
No, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, I don't know what to expect. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm hoping for at this point. I'm
That's
just
the
kind of,
problem.
we're just not. Yeah, it's, you know, without taking too much time on it, it's just, it's gonna be episode 8. Then we're gonna be waiting for season 2.
Are you going to tune into episode 8 next Friday?
I will watch episode 8. I don't expect anything. I don't expect anything to make me want to watch it. And a lot of times I get into a show, I get my girlfriend, she's like, hey, come check this out. And she was down here playing Nintendo Switch while I was watching episode 6. She's like, you're not really into this. I'm like, I'm not. And she could just tell that I'm just watching it.
Yeah,
That's all I'm doing, is watching it. It's just something for my eyeballs.
If we weren't talking about it, I would have quit this show a while ago.
Agreed.
Like episodes ago.
Yep.
Yeah, hey, well, we've got The Witcher to talk about, season 2, and that's
that'll be good.
That's rolling. We'll be wrapping that up. I haven't watched any of the episodes yet. We'll be back in 2 weeks, right?
January 2nd. Yes,
2
sir.
weeks from today, as we take a little break for the holidays. Anything you have not seen episode 8, right, Sarah?
No.
I
mean, they're
what
going
do you think's going to happen? Just out
they're
of
going
curiosity.
to the eye of the world, so I hope they poke it.
I
I hope it's a
big flaming Sauron.
I hope it's a literal eyeball, and I hope they poke it.
I'm going to have to go. I was like, I can't remember what the hell the Eye of the World is from the books. I mean, of course, I read the book so long ago, and it's like I read Game of Thrones so long ago.
I think he's going to do something that it's going to solve the immediate problem, and then it's going to make like a bigger long-term problem. So they'll have to go on a bigger adventure. They're like, oh, we have to go here and do this thing, and they're going to do the thing, and it's going to be like, oh no, now we have a bigger problem.
That is probably very close
to have to for
happen.
season 2. There's got to be a bigger problem, right? They can't solve it at the end of episode 8.
All right. Well, we are out of here. We will see you in 2 weeks. Thank you both for joining us, and have a good holiday, everybody. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks again.